Hello, everybody. Yes, I know it's been difficult this week, hasn't it? But maybe we'll be your crock of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay, that's not going to happen, but never mind. Anyway, I'm Mark Griffiths. He's Bill Long, and he's Neil Williams. And together, we're going to bring to you Final Whistle Weekly, in which we talk about, well, a game that didn't go that well on Tuesday, and a game that didn't go that well on Sunday. But apart from that, it's all positivity even, and shining light from us. I'm scared to ask, but how are you, gentlemen? Deafening
Go for it,
silence.
Bill.
Yep, thought as much.
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think, Mark, it's the contrarian in me that is making me incredibly positive about our position.
Yeah.
Because I can't help but try and go against the grain sometimes. It's not intentional, but I'm sure we're going to get on to why I don't think everything's as bad as people are trying to claim.
Oh, we're going to be the happy clapping podcast this week,
Oh,
are we? Right.
Mark, I think even if we weren't happy clappers, we'd be accused of it anyway, so we may as well lean into it.
That's it. Yeah. Let's just jump straight into it then. In that case, Stevenage. Wow, that first half was not good. I think that's an understatement. Are you going to tell me it went to plan, Bill?
No. I think I want to sort of rant about our position, but later let's talk about the game first. I think we need to separate our current predicament from this game, because that is just one of those performances that will come around every now and again. Liverpool lost to Nottingham Forest 3-0 at the start of the season. I know Forest are doing really well this season, but that was a surprise at the time, wasn't it?
It was 1-0, wasn't it?
Was it 1-0? Sorry,
Yeah.
did they beat?
Still surprised, but...
my bad. Yeah, and obviously City have been beaten a few times in a similar sort of position. And I'm not trying to compare us to those teams, but I'm just trying to illustrate that good teams can have bad results, and I don't think this run of games necessarily makes us a bad team automatically necessary. But the game was awful. It was awful. That first half in particular. Neil, I bet you've seen better performances from the pigs in the muck.
Which is your thoughts? Which is your thought? Doing far better at the moment, yeah. For me, that was one of the worst performances first half I've seen for a long time at the racecourse. I don't know what the problem was, but we didn't gel. We couldn't put two passes together, and it was just one of those games where the whole team were off the boil. But Bill, we've got lots to be thankful for. I totally agree with you.
100%. And I think we need to look back slightly at games that took place over the last sort of 2 or 3 years, where Crewe, when we drew 3-3, sort of comes to mind. The Dover game a few years back sort of comes to mind. Not quite in the same way, but I just think the way we set up tactically and the way Parkinson's teams operate, we will occasionally concede a few goals, and generally we're used to clawing that back. But we're just now in a league, Mark, where the quality of opposition, even for mid-table teams, you can't rely on just having a comeback from being 2 goals apart, can you?
I think that's very true. Absolutely. Although, to be fair, I think that we've had spells this season where we've been very good defensively. I feel like recently something teams have done against us, which has gotten them a bit of success, is being quite brave, and certainly one of the big factors that caused us to play like that in the first half was Stevenage were very good. They had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do, and they executed it really well. But I feel like what a lot of teams have done is the sort of thing that has troubled us in away games. They've been brave. And you look at how Stevenage set up. They had 3 attacking players, and they didn't have the ball. They weren't dropping off into their own half, as I think a lot of us expected them to. There's more than one way to defend. They were quite bold. The front 3 would go up onto our back 3, making it difficult for them to bring the ball down and bring it out or pass it out. And then their player in the hole, if you will, would go on to Matty James, and that's something I feel we've not quite found a solution for consistently in recent matches. Teams putting their third midfielder onto James, and then we haven't got the extra man in midfield. So I thought that was a big part of it. Without the ball, we didn't get things going because they were extremely effective in choosing when to adopt that shape, when to press. Our wing backs, of course, if we're operating well, they're way up the pitch. So that means they're not dropping off in order to give us an extra man to pass our way out of trouble. And then we end up getting into a situation where we either just thump it long, which is not wise when you're in playing one up front with Lee off him. Because I felt a little sorry for Palmer in that. I think he did create some loose balls, but Lee wasn't able to get close enough to him. Because the other problem is that, your midfielders start dropping deeper to try and make an extra player, but then there's a gap again between you and the striker, and eventually you do go long to him. So I thought it was just that classic situation. We've got to find a way to pass and get through that. And it sort of comes back to what I've been saying for a while, really, which is you got to be brave. You got to be brave and pass that ball out from the back and take these players out, either by trusting your teammates and passing to people who are marked and trusting them to be able to use it, or being able to drive past somebody. And I think we've got to, but you got to be brave to do that, because if you don't, you may well cost the team a goal. But I thought Stevenage were very good. And then with the ball, and this really surprised me, since they've only got, before the game, they had 4 away goals all season, was their switching of positions, their rotation around, and their quick passing was really, really good. And it was evident in, certainly the second goal and the third goal, mostly the second goal. They really did it well, didn't they? I mean, there were points. If you look at the build, which one was it? I'm trying to think which attack it was. There was one, I don't think it led to a goal, where because Reed or Apere, whichever one, because they kept rotating, and then none of them were up front. The classic false 9 problem. And Scar is thinking it was the goal, one of them. Oh, I'm going to stop trying to remember which attack it was.
Second goal, was it?
It may well have been. Scar has to step up, or feels he has to step up, because they got an extra man in midfield and he's not marking anybody. And the moment he does that, the runner from deep, woof, he's gone. And the ball's played into that space. And they're clearly waiting. That was the trigger. They're rotating. They're waiting for one of our centre-backs to think, I'm not marking anyone. I've got to do something and step up. And the moment one of them did that, bang, right in behind them. So, yeah, I do think credit to them. We didn't move the ball quickly enough. We weren't brave enough on the ball. Second half, we just were more aggressive and direct and turned it into a bit more of a scrap. But we don't really want to do that normally, do we? But we had to, because our normal game plan wasn't working.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mark. I think Stevenage creates a lot of space for themselves. As you said, they were very quick. But when we tried to do the same thing, our players couldn't find any space, and I don't think had the confidence to play out from the back. I thought Stevenage were very, very well organised. Their second goal was superb. I mean, we were at their end of the pitch, and 30 seconds later, it was in the back of the net. They've done what we were doing earlier on in the season, being so effective in breaking away and being so confident with your passes and your players, and they were very, very good. They've done their homework very, very well. But the thing that I don't understand is how a team could play so poorly in the first half, and then you make a couple of changes second half, and you look at a totally different team. I mean, yeah, we heard the fans booing yesterday, but I mean, football fans or any fans that go and pay money to watch anything want to be entertained, and certainly weren't entertained in the first half, but definitely were in the second half. And that's what I think I struggle to get my head around, and what a lot of other fans struggle to get their heads around is a contrast in the formation and how we played in the second half compared to the first half. Bill, I don't know whether you have that same kind of thought. Why is the contrast of playing in first and second half different?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it sort of shows. It's not often I'll say this about this squad, because I love all of them like they're my children. It's
some of them are, I believe. Sorry.
Well, yes, yeah. Even the ones that are older than me, Stephen Fletcher, I reckon I can lay claim to him.
Elliot Lee has got a slight resemblance to you, Bill.
He's a much better looking version of me, honestly. I'm like the Poundland version of Elliot Lee at best. So
I think you're a bit overpriced, but carry on.
Second-hand shop then. No, yeah, I think the players kind of let him down in that first half, and then maybe a change of formation and a bit of a rocket in the dressing room at half time might have sort of given them a bit of what they needed. But it's even hard to say that because I think we were just tactically outclassed in a way, and I think Parkinson has rightly taken some of the blame for that in his post-match interview. So, I mean, yeah.
Sorry to interact. I mean, so you're bollocking at half time shouldn't make a difference.
Oh, you have to bleep this
way you
now.
play.
Thank you, Nick.
Sorry.
Cheers, Neil. Let's see, what time is it? Yeah, okay, yeah, cheers.
Telling off at half time shouldn't make a difference in how you play in the first half and second half. I mean, they knew they were pretty poor, so I can't see how that would motivate you to play far better in one half of the game than the other. So, yeah,
I think that's a fair point, Neil. And regardless of the cause, there was a drastic difference in that sort of first 10 minutes after they came back on the pitch, wasn't there? And I think if we're going to take some slight positives, Ollie Rathbone and George Dobson were pretty decent throughout the entire match. Mullin looked all right when he came on. That's about all I can say, really. I don't know how do you pick that apart, Mark? Like, what do you think we're missing in that performance? I know you've sort of broke the game down, but what do you think solves that problem for us?
I don't think that wholesale change is necessarily the answer. Although, having said that, I think it may be that Parkinson needs to bring a couple of different players in on Saturday and just change things around a little bit. But I think in terms of formation, which people drop on, I don't see the issue with that necessarily. I do think that boldness on the ball is important. I wonder if Matty James, who has not had the first half of the season or pre-season, maybe just needs a break. I think he's great, Matty James. I'm not a critic of him whatsoever. But looking at how Dobson played when he dropped into that central one, maybe just a little bit of a refresh, give him a break on Saturday, just so he can, sort of have a slightly easier week and then bring him back into the first 11. Little things.
He's had a lot of football for a player that wasn't attached to a club over the summer, isn't he?
Exactly so, and he's done really well. But he wasn't able to influence things as much in this game, and a lot of people say, "Oh, let's change. Let's go have four at the back. Let's do this, do that." Well, we have recruited players consistently since the takeover, looking at this style of football and this shape, and I'm not convinced that we therefore should throw the baby out with the bathwater. Not least because, okay, we're concerned about a poor performance. Yeah, it's as we go for our third consecutive promotion. And while I absolutely don't want to be saying, oh, yeah, it's all fine, really. Yeah, I'm really happy the last 5 games we've just been normal and fluent. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm not, our situation is fantastic. And I feel comfortable that Parkinson will be looking at it and will be seeing it sensibly and working out solutions. And he knows that what happened against Stevenage didn't work. If I can just quickly come back to what you guys were saying, I'm going to start the argument now. I think I do understand why teams can be good in one half and bad in the other, and I would argue, if you think about it, Neil, you've been thinking this about Wrexham since you started watching Wrexham. That's what football teams do. This, don't they? They'll have a bad start, and for whatever reason, they can sometimes kick themselves out of it. Sometimes teams will be awful one week and go in 7-0 the next week. It's the nature of football, isn't it? Things change. Sometimes little alterations can change the balance. I think that Dobson going to the holding midfield added a lot of dynamism. I think Parkinson had clearly got in amongst them, shall we say, and said we need to move the ball a lot quicker. We need to get the ball forward earlier. Having Fletcher and someone alongside him allowed us to be a bit more direct and a bit more aggressive. And I think, I mean, like you said, Rathbone and Dobson and Mullin really set an example, didn't they? At the start of the second half, they were full of energy. They were fighting like heck for the ball. And we weren't really seeing that in the first half, were we? But we were getting closer to them. We were hassling them. Whereas in the first half, it often felt like we were just one step behind. By the time a player went to cover a pass, it had already gone to somebody else. And it was horrible. But it didn't make them bad players. It just made them a team that as a unit weren't functioning, which is why I think he'll shake things up a bit. Lewis Brunt is fit again, as I understand it, as well. So he's obviously got to come into contention.
Yeah, I think defensively we weren't too bad, apart from, the way that Stevenage scored those 2 goals. But I would like to see like the finishing 11 last night, maybe starting on Saturday at Crawley. But sorry, going back, I mean, this time last year we had roughly the same problem where we went through a bit of a slump for 4 or 5 games where we did struggle for a while, and it is mid-season and some of them played lots of games. But I'm happy with where we are at the moment. It was just, as you say, one of those bad days of the office for the first half. But at the time, you're thinking, what the heck's going on? And you got fans shouting behind you, what to do this, what to do that. And I can understand why they're disgruntled. And I'm sure, the players weren't happy with themselves either, or Phil.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, overall as a season, it's far beyond my expectations.
Yeah. And I've got to say as well, I mean, I've always been inclined to not be comfortable with fans having a go at players. Certainly when people think someone's not trying, well, come off it. I mean, that's nonsense, that is. But I do think that I got where the fans were coming from yesterday, because we simply were, in the first half, emphatically second best. And I get that. And it was a sense of shock in the crowd, wasn't there, really, of wow, we're not always on top of a game, but this doesn't happen. And so I got where the crowd were coming from, to be fair.
We were quite comfortably very bad in the first half, weren't we?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, we really were. And I know we're the club official podcast, sort of de facto or whatever. And I don't want to risk getting in trouble for saying it. And I only feel like I can say it because Parkinson himself said it in the press conference as well. Really, along those lines, that it just wasn't a good performance in that first half. And I'm never tempted to boo. And I still wasn't tempted to boo, but like you, Mark, I did sort of see where a lot of people were coming from. But I think people were just shocked because we're not used to that sort of performance, are we? It's not.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's not usual.
Yeah. That's
especially at home.
Yeah, and that's why I understood it as well. And I've got to say, regardless of what platform we're on, I mean, everybody knows when they've had a poor performance, and we're as entitled as anybody to say it. But you just got to be reasonable about it and realistic.
Yeah.
Rather than just go crazy and say, well, let's drop 8 of them now and get rid of them. Which you see people saying, as people in football tend to say, and Parkinson says, don't get too excited when you win and don't get too upset when you lose. You got to try and keep it level and see what the way out is.
So this is where my ranty sort of part comes, Mark, because some of the wilder takes online, and I know that's not online discourse isn't the be all and end all, but it is a slight reflection of what the crowd's going to be like in the next couple of home games. Actually, for once, I think it's lucky that we haven't got a home game for a while, because at least everyone will be up for it by the time there's a home game. Memories are short. We get a couple of wins in this month period with just away games, and then suddenly everyone's going to come to the racecourse feeling happy again. But to sort of really have a go at this squad after everything they've given us over the last 2 years, it just smacks of the absolute worst that we get accused of as a club from other fans.
Yeah,
it's the first time I've really thought, come on, guys, we're third in League One. We're third in League One.
Yeah,
We're third in League One. They're entitled to a little bad patch of games without accusing ex-player of not being interested, and you know the coaching team aren't up to it, and they've got the Parky ceiling starting to come out again, isn't it? Which is the most absolutely most boring opinion ever. Like, come on, use your brain cells. Parkinson's gotten promoted from League One a couple of times. There's no such thing as a ceiling. It's nonsense. His tenure is going to come to a natural end eventually, because every single manager in the game's tenure comes to a natural end, and it's only someone who's got the pedigree of someone like Alex Ferguson who sort of gets to pick when they're allowed to go. Every but manager goes eventually, so that will come, but not while we're third in League One. Get a grip. Seriously, just get a grip.
Totally agree with you, Bill.
2 years ago, we were in the National League. 2 years ago, we were in the National League. Come on.
And that's
Stop
why I
losing
don't.
Your head.
No, that's exactly why I didn't get too upset about our loss last night. You know, as you say, we were in the National League 3 years ago. You know, and we've got to take a step back and think. You know, look where we are, guys. As you said, Bill, we're third in the I knew you said National League. In League One. I mean, beyond our wildest dreams, we'd never thought that 3 years ago.
No, absolutely not. I thought we were going to spend a couple of years in League Two, to be honest. Not necessarily more than 2 or 3, but I still thought we would have done. And I was half expecting us to sort of finish 14th, 15th this year if things didn't go our way at the start of the year. Like, we're third. It's crazy. Yeah. I know this. Look, I'm not saying people can't have opinions. I don't want to be accused of being too much of a happy clapper, like you said, Mark, and I'll stop my rant in a minute. And, you know, people going on that sort of tirade of like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Absolutely. You're probably right. There were things that happened last night, some things that were reoccurring that maybe Parkinson needs to sort out, some things that were just kind of unique to last night, right? Doesn't take a genius to see these things. You're not seeing things that Phil Parkinson's not seeing, okay? But that doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve a bit of credit and a bit of time to fix the ship. You don't know what's going on internally. There could be reasons why Mullin's not starting. I'm not, you know, there's not. I'm sure Parkinson doesn't necessarily want to play Lee up front every week. There's got to be some sort of a reason behind it. You know, he's not just being stubborn. He's very empirical based, Parkinson. He will stick with a team that is winning or performing. Granted, we didn't perform against Shrewsbury, but we performed really well against Birmingham, and it's very, very rare he changes a side that have given that level of performance. So why anybody expected us to change the side on Tuesday, give your head a wobble. I'm not saying there couldn't have been changes, because other managers would have done it, but like this expectation that Parkinson's suddenly going to change exactly. I'm gonna have to stop myself. It's please seriously. Like, I was as angry as anyone coming from the ground yesterday, but just put some perspective on your opinions before you put it out there, because it's well known that footballers do read Twitter. Things that do get said on places like Red Passion and Facebook do get back to players in some way or another. We've got to be supporting a team that has taken us from an average National League side to pushing for promotion to the Championship, which we've only ever done once in our history. So some perspective is just really needed. Well
said, Bill. Well said. Yeah. Round of applause. Yeah.
Yeah.
You fancy being a politician?
Well, you know.
No, Bill, you're better than that. I 100% agree. You're absolutely right. It was poor against Stevenage, and nobody playing or in the coaching staff would turn around and argue against that. And that's the point. But like you said, the overreaction is insane. And the specious logic that people use, like you said, Parkinson hits his ceiling when, well, I mean, any manager has hit his ceiling until he achieves that. You know what I mean? Any manager has a problem getting out of League One until they do. And as you say, Parkinson has done it twice, actually. So it's not even based on fact. And if he was to change that, I mean, I didn't imagine for a second he'd change that team from the Birmingham match. It was only 5 days earlier that we took on this super team and, well, gave him a bit of a second half battering. If you know, please explain to the player who gets left out from that match why they were left out. It's unrealistic and silly. And you know, Bill, because I've said it so many times, when people say a player isn't trying, 99.99% of the time, what it means is, I don't like how this game is going, but I don't know why. So I'm
Yeah.
going to say that player doesn't try. I mean, and in this squad, of all squads, I mean, the way they work together, the way, Rathbone will charge somebody down and he's got three players patting him on the back. This team cares. I mean, goodness me, who could think otherwise? So yeah, that's just people who say that immediately disqualify themselves from having a valid opinion on it, to be frank.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, you've also got to take some level of human beings are human beings, and there will be people who were ranting last night who will have calmed down. It's just
Yeah.
they don't then go and put that message out into the world the next day, do they? Because they're not angry and
Yeah.
sort of psychologically proven that social media is geared towards anger. So it is what it is. But I do think some people really really need to think about what they're saying sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Bill, those messages were coming out as soon as the team sheets were out.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, they were shocking.
Well, complaining about
some
the
of things
starting
that were
11.
said. After the team sheets came out, the amount of messages came in, and some of them were absolutely shocking.
Yeah. I mean, people seem to be against the idea of Lee playing off Palmer. And again, as you say, Bill, that's an opinion. Okay. And it doesn't always work. But I'd like people to maybe explain why they think it rather than just that old fashioned, you'll need two lads up front and then they'll both score goals, because that's not actually true. And I think that the idea of Lee playing in that manner can work and has worked against Exeter. We blew them away. At Bristol Rovers, he was running the game and then got injured. And it can work. It hasn't done the last couple of matches, but I think that's because we haven't applied successfully the strategic principles behind it. I don't see, like I was talking about earlier, starting to resort to hitting Palmer early. Well, if you've got that extra man dropping into midfield and linking, that's the thing to avoid. You need to keep calm, keep it on the floor, get possession, camp in the other side's half by moving up the pitch, and then Lee dropping off creates spaces and players can run into it. And once you go long to Palmer, you're negating that possibility because you're not going to build her up. So it was the application of the idea, not the idea itself, I would argue. I don't think there's anything wrong with Lee playing on the whole, as long as we then play to that. Personally,
we actually played 6 games when we first started playing that formation after losing to Stockport. Beat Exeter, beat Lincoln, beat Barnsley, beat Burton, drew with Cambridge, drew with Bristol Rovers. Both of those games were last minute equalisers that we shouldn't have been conceding, and that's not Elliot Lee and Ollie Palmer's fault.
Well, in fact, I mean,
and actually, both of those goals would have been when it would have been a change, when both those players would have come off, and Mullen and Fletcher would have replaced.
And
so that's 8-game unbeaten run using that formation.
Yeah. And the Bristol Rovers game, like I say, Lee, first half hour, ran that game, scored the goal. It was working beautifully, and he got injured. And so we had to change it. So, people pick and choose elements of, of an argument that suit them, or just shout it loudly without backing it up. And I'm doing the same, aren't I? I'm picking out the positive parts of it. There have been times it hasn't worked, but I feel like you can see the reason why it works or doesn't work. And to be fair to Parkinson, he's acted in Birmingham game and last night to try and address it by not doing that anymore and changing things around.
But being devil's advocate, you go back to the Shrewsbury game, didn't work there, and we played terrible.
True.
Yes. Yeah, we upped our game against Birmingham, which we would do as well. But again, last night, so a little part of me thinks, do you pick the squad based on the opposition you're playing? Rather than maybe on the formation you want to play.
Well, I think he is, but then if that opposition either outmaneuver us or maybe spring something slightly different on us, that move hasn't worked then, I guess.
Yeah, what were we going to say, Bill?
That's fair. No, I don't know. I lost it.
Well, that's what I will say. Going back to something Neil said quite a while ago about, improving at half time. I think sadly part of the reason for that is because we've had this calendar year, a few subpar first halves, and we've had to chase the game. And I think that's also been it. Parkinson has reacted, has made those alterations, and I think we need to, before people start complaining about him, I think we need to appreciate that he won't have wanted his team to play like they did in the first half yesterday. So he did make changes, which did work. People I think seem to be keen. Oh, look at Parkinson, he wants them to do this, and it doesn't happen. Well, he didn't want them to do that, and he changed it, and it got better. It's sometimes players just find it difficult to carry out a task for whatever reason, and that can be infectious.
Yeah, I think I'd far rather be a Wrexham fan and lose against Shrewsbury than be a Shrewsbury fan who beat Wrexham, but still lost the last two games and are still rock bottom of League One.
Yeah, absolutely right. I feel I wouldn't swap our position with them, really, to be honest.
No. They may have had the glory 2 weeks ago, but see what happens come the end of the season, eh?
They got a crumb off our table, the lucky devils. Right. Let's knock this on the head and talk about how, unfortunately, the women's team had a bad day on Sunday. Well, if you want a bit of light relief from the Stevenage game, I'm afraid that the game at Cardiff Met on Sunday's not going to provide it, because sadly we drew, and as a consequence, it's going to take quite a sequence of results now for us to end in the top half of the table. I mean, to break it down, 3 games left for both us and Swansea. We're going to have to win our 3. Swansea will have to lose their 3. It's slightly less far-fetched than it sounds, in that Swansea's next 2 games are against Cardiff City and Britain Ferry. They are tough games, and then the 3rd game is them against us. And our next game is against Aberystwyth, who are second bottom. Then we have a tough game against TNS, of course, but they're both at home, and we have continued to do well at home. But yeah, dropping 2 points against Cardiff Met's 2nd point of the season was very frustrating. And again, you look at the performance and you feel, yeah, we've done all right here, but we haven't scored the goals that our pressure, warranted. And it's going to be tough now to achieve that, and our focus might have to turn to the cup.
Massive shame that, Mark. Massive shame. What went wrong?
Well, essentially, I know I'm going to be a bit simplistic. In a way, it was like some of the like some of the men's team games where in the first half we were the better side. We did make chances, but we weren't maybe moving the ball quite quickly enough. To be fair to Cardiff Met, they didn't play like a side that had been losing hand over fist. And, their previous game, they only lost 2-1 to Britain Ferry. They are competitive, but they just haven't been good enough to get results at the end of games. But they did defend well. Their keeper made a couple of good saves. And then we conceded a sloppy goal from a free kick on the halfway line, which was dropped in. And there was miscommunication. Centre-back had to head it, and it went in. She didn't get a shout for to warn her. And we were losing at half time. And second half was a massive onslaught. And we could have scored a lot. We equalised, and we just couldn't get that goal at the end. Cardiff Met wasted a lot of time. And as I always say, I don't blame them, because the referee wasn't doing enough about it. Their keeper got treated 3 times in the second half. One of their outfield players got treated as well. I did a quick count back. I didn't go through the whole second half, but I did a quick count back just of injuries being treated by a physio. And also that one of their centre-backs started taking goal kicks, which was taking a long time. And I got to 9 minutes. So I'm not counting like trivial things like the ball going out for a throw-in. I'm just, physio on the pitch or slow restarts by a team that's holding on to a result, and the ref had it on 4. And it was, I mean, that's not the reason why we didn't win it. We could have scored a few throughout the game, but yeah, it was that was irksome at the end as well. It was a shame, and it sort of summed up our season where we've deserved better results than we've got. But we've been coming away from games thinking, okay, we're looking to do things the right way. There's a lot of good in how we play, but the results just haven't quite come for us.
Yeah, unfortunately, feels a bit like a step backwards, doesn't it? I'm sure that's how they'll feel. Because obviously they finished in the top 4 last season, but out of nowhere, TNS have been the team to beat this season, haven't they? And they've come out of nowhere and been such a superior team.
Until Sunday, when Cardiff took control, because they won 4-3 at TNS. And so Cardiff are now in the box seat. But yeah, you're dead right. The thing is that, it looks like a couple of teams have improved, quite frankly. Well, 3 teams have improved. Them, Britain Ferry and Barry are all better than they were before. And we've not been ruthless. But I like the way that we've played. I have a lot of sympathy for the players, a lot of sympathy for Steve Dale, who sets them up really well. It's a shame. In a way, there was a lot of... Start the second half, we were really putting a lot of pressure on. And like I said, there are some parallels to the men's team in the way of like putting lots of pressure on, but not maybe making enough chances. Rosie Hughes does good movements, links up play really well, has good vision. She would drop wide or drop deeper and try to set things up. We brought on Abby Iddenden, and her getting injured, I think, was a blow to us. She's come back now. She's had 2 sub appearances. She came on at half time. She's really a second striker. She is so good at dropping off between the lines and linking play up. Problem was, often they both were naturally doing that, enjoying it in move, and we get down the sides. They aren't able to get back into the box quickly enough. We're not getting people in the box enough. Brooke Cairn scored a goal. She's a centre mid, and she was getting into the box a lot. It was really good to see that. But it was otherwise. Sometimes we didn't have enough bodies to aim at when we got down the side. Cara Jones went on the right hand side in the second half and put some good service in. Rebecca Pritchard did on the right in the first half. She got subbed at half time, but I think it was more to try and rejig things to get more attacking players on the pitch than the comment on her. But there weren't enough bodies maybe to attack it. But having said that, it was because we were passing the ball around well. Players dropping off to join up in midfield, and we're out manoeuvring Cardiff men, pulling them around. But then maybe not getting that boring old-fashioned, blunt instrument in the box to actually finish her off, if you see what I mean. It's a shame. It's a shame. It puts a lot on the Welsh Cup now. That quarter-final against Swansea again is suddenly our big chance to make sure this season is a step forwards.
And is that a home mark, that
it is.
Final?
Yeah. And after, as I said last week, after all the crazy games we've had against Swansea lately, it's going to be a humdinger. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. I hope.
And what's the date for that, Mark? Is that coming up soon, is it?
It's I want to say 3 Sundays away. I'm stupid. I should know. Hang on. Where's my calendar? Come on, calendar, la. You can do it. There we are. It's on the 16th of February. So you've got Valentine's Day. Then you've got a lovely romantic trip to Northampton. Then you've got the Welsh Cup quarter-final. And then, excitingly, you've got my MOT is due on the Monday. And then on the Tuesday is the rematch of the battery and the potteries, me against that stupid dog mascot. And I'm going to take it to a place of pain. I'm going to take it to... What's the Wrexham equivalent of Chinatown? I don't know.
Johnstown, yeah, lad, yeah. That makes more sense, doesn't it?
Right, okay, fair enough. Rose Stuckland, the land that Wi-Fi forgot. Trust me.
I mean, you're looking forward, Mark,
Stuckland, but let's be honest, you're not watching because you can't get a signal, can you?
So you're travelling down to Crawley then on Saturday for Saturday, Mark, and you're back up for the women's game on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's hope that both teams can give me a couple of wins to enjoy.
Yeah, for all of us, yeah.
All right then for you lot as well. No, I always thought Wrexham only play for me. You see.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No. Thank you very much. I'm a humble man, Neil. You know that.
Very much so, yeah.
Right. Well, I guess we should go off now and prepare for a triumphant weekend, shouldn't we? And if anybody wants to pay for my MOT, of course, I'd be forced to accept in the spirit of chivalry.
Can you be sponsored, Mark, eh?
Do you reckon? Drive around.
Ask your MOT.
Ask WXM MOT.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
His car is driven by an unnecessary person. Yeah. That's a wonderful story, isn't there, about the Liverpool player in the 80s. I mean, obviously, we don't want to say his name. Jan Molby, who was in a high-speed chase in the wrong direction down the Birkenhead Tunnel with the police. And he thought he'd shook them, but they came around in the morning, and he was like, well, why do you think it was me? And they explained that he was driving a sponsored car with this car is driven by Jan Molby on the side. Happy day.
There we go. That's what we look forward to.
Nice one. Yeah, exactly so. Yeah, I'll try and take it easy. Well, guys, even though we didn't get the results we wanted, it's always a pleasure chatting to you. So,
yeah, always a pleasure, guys.
Keep the faith and speak to you next week.
Definitely.
Cheers, Mark.
That was
Cheers,
Final Whistle Weekly.